Ahoy everyone, it is Jeff, also known as Scummer. Welcome back to History with Scummer. This is going to be a short video, a little disappointed today in a sense because I'd hoped to get a better video. I'm here just outside the Portsmouth Historic Dockyard, and right behind me you can see HMS Warrior, which was Britain's first ironclad warship in Britain. They started building it in 1859, and it was a response to the fact that the French had recently built an ironclad warship, and even though Britain and France hadn't been war at any time for a few decades at this point, there's still a bit of there's still competition, a bit of an arms race going. So look, France has got an iron warship, Britain's got to have one, hasn't it? Now, this dockyard behind me is a great museum. Unfortunately, you can't see the other ships from here, but you've got Henry VIII's flagship, the Mary Rose, which is in a facility, because an indoor facility, because you've got what's left of it. It's got to be preserved, and the Mary Rose actually sunk in her maiden voyage. It's the Battle of the Solent. It wasn't sunk by ship or anything. I think it took on board water when it attacked or something, and too much came in through the gun ports, I think is what happened. And it wasn't until 1982 that they actually raised what was left from it from the bottom of the Solent and put it into a facility, which and then they built this new facility for it. Also on this is the you can't see it from here, unfortunately, and a lot of it unfortunately is under scaffolding as well at the moment, so you won't be able to see this ship in its full glory for quite a few years. But HMS Victory, which was the flagship of Lord Admiral Nelson, it was a battle of Trafalgar, from the Battle of Trafalgar. Now, I'd had hoped, what my initial aim to do today was to actually film a little bit aboard HMS Victory, even do a little walk around tour kind of thing. Unfortunately, I don't have permission to do that. I wasn't quite sure of the rules when I came down here, and I'll know for future reference that I need to someone because it was for YouTube purposes. That was technically a commercial purpose, which even if I'm not going to make any money out of this, it's still technically seen as a commercial release, and I'm not going to argue. And you also have to understand that this behind me, though it's mainly a museum, it is still technically a working naval base. So it's understandable that there's going to be rules about what you can and can't do in terms of filming and stuff. So I understand that. Plus, I'm going to say this: when you've got police officers walking around with assault rifles in a place, you definitely know it's not a good idea to make argue. That's something you definitely don't see every day in Britain. When you've got the police walking around and they're carrying assault rifles, definitely don't want to make arguments, do you? So yeah, a little bit disappointed I couldn't do that, but hopefully I'll learn for future reference, and I'll see if I can go and get permission and come back. Because I've got a ticket that I'm allowed to come here up till March next year, so hopefully I'll see if I can get some permission to do that. But there's quite a spectacular ship behind the Warrior. This was sort of like restored during the late 70s, and it was like about 85, 86 or something like that. I think that they put it on display here in the harbour, the ship was actually, I don't think it was ever used in anger, unlike some of the other warships here, like HMS Victory, of course. And Victory was like had a service of like over 40 or 50 years before and it spent a lot of time sort of moored out somewhere out there in the harbour for a whole number of years, and a lot of people, the Admiralty didn't quite know what to do with it. They were going to break it up at one point in the 1830s, but there was a bit of a public outcry about that, because it also served as a prison ship in the harbour for a little while before in the 1920s they put it into a dry dock, and it's been a sort of museum ship ever since. And the Victory, just so you know, is still a commissioned ship within the Royal Navy. It is the oldest commissioned warship in any navy in the world, so it's technically still part of the fleet. even though it's a museum ship, and it's quite, when you see it in its full glory, and unfortunately you won't see it in its full glory for quite a few years, because to keep these things, to keep these ships intact, there's a lot of work has to be done. So there's a lot of scaffolding and a big tent around a lot of the Victory at the moment, so you can't quite see Victory in her full glory, but it's really quite spectacular when you get to see this all. But like Warrior again is a much bigger ship than the Victory. It's quite, I don't know if this camera does it how justice to quite just how big this ship is actually for a ship of the time period. And iron warships very much became a thing during the 1860s. So you're around about the time of the American Civil War. It's the sort of era you're looking at. And so I think I'm going to call it a day here on this short little video. This is the first. I hope to get out to a few sort of sites or whatever, but obviously I learned a little bit lesson that you might have to check about rules around filming when you go out to certain places. So I understand that now. But you live and learn as you go, don't you? So this was a short little one, and hopefully what I'll be able to do is go and give you some more in-depth things on some of these ships, if I can get permission to go and back and actually film on board, and even if it's just doing a walk round tour or something. So I shall see you all later. Salute.